Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and we've got Jubilee's video of these based black conservatives against these whiny white liberals, and it's not going to end well for them when they try to tell a black conservative that they deserve reparations. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Reparations are necessary.
When we talk about reparations, I think that doing reparations in the way that a lot of people think of it, where we just give it to black people, I'm not an expert on this, but I think it would be more income-based, and that in itself, like I said earlier, would disproportionately benefit black people, because if you recognize that they are disproportionately affected by a systemic injustice, then doing it on like a class level would uplift proportionally more black people than white people. Or any other race.
Yeah, I think like mostly like black GIs that were left out of like the New Deal, for instance, that to be able to come back and as a white American, as a white veteran, to get a home loan and then build that generational wealth, you could not get that as a black American. So there needs to be, I think, reparations. I don't care really what form it comes from. I think free healthcare, free college, so that everyone has like an equal opportunity to educate themselves, to build a better life for themselves.
I have no problems with reparations if they had happened initially during the slavery or the civil rights movement or any of that. But to try and do that now logistically just doesn't really make any sense. And like, where would this money come from? Like, we're in so much debt as a nation. Would I get this money? I'm biracial or triracial. Like, do mixed people get it? And like, do Irish people get reparations when they were indentured servants?
Yeah, America's unique because we have bent over backwards for decades now, putting minorities in a position of privilege. I feel like we have done so much to give back to the communities that were obviously wronged. And I agree with both of you. Like, had this happened a long time ago, I would understand it. If we had specific incidences that we could trace where people were just completely screwed over, I would respect it. But right now, I don't deserve a payment for something my great-great-great-great-grandparents went through, and I don't think that white people are responsible for paying that to me either.
I know we don't want to use the word virtue signaling, but it's sort of like a bribe for a vote in a way, at least in my opinion. In states like California, where they've been throwing around the idea of, oh, we want to pay out this much money to every black citizen in there, in this state, it's like, are you serious?
In San Francisco, they were going to raise the average family, or the average household in San Francisco was expected to pay $600,000 each with the $5 million per black person proposal that they had. And I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was repulsed by that because you have so many homeless veterans on the streets, and they were going to give black people a home for as little as $1 just for being black. Mind you, slavery wasn't even in California. So why that was going to be the case, like, I don't understand, but it's extremely unrealistic to think that the average family in San Francisco can afford that.
That's because Newsom wants to get reelected.
Okay, but you don't really care about homeless veterans, right?
That's just
you don't support
idea.
You don't know
I
me.
feel like all your arguments are ad hominem.
But you're
literally
here as a
every
conservative.
single one ad hominem.
Y'all, this is a lot to unpack, so I'll try to keep it as succinct as possible. I've got to start with this. Right there at the end, this leftist, who initially seemed like he cared about the issues, immediately got personal, saying, "You don't care about homeless veterans, do you?" So he immediately accepts the fact that the initial point that this black conservative was making, and then says, well, you don't care about this, so that means you don't care about this. Okay, that is inherently illogical, which is one of the huge fundamental flaws of leftists. They are not fully based on logic. More often than not, they're based on trauma. However, I also want you to note one of the other leftists in this group. She didn't say anything, but it was the girl that was constantly tugging on her hair. What that tells me, what that kind of body language says, you are uncomfortable because someone is saying something you disagree with and it makes sense. She is basically being re-educated before her eyes and she doesn't like it. Hey y'all, I just wanted to give a shout out to my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. Their experts understand exactly what they're doing with gold, silver, and other precious metals, unlike our current leadership, which is giving us rampant inflation, terrible Federal Reserve policies, a president that doesn't know what planet he's on, and of course, an out-of-control Congress that won't stop spending. We have to figure out ways to keep our wealth safe. And the best way to do that is to go over to my friends at Colonial Metals Group, because their experts can help you diversify your portfolio, and they've got an amazing offer for first-time accounts. Free gold, silver IRA accounts, insured storage for 5 years, up to $7,500 in silver delivered directly to your home, and a safe to keep all that stuff in. So go over regardless and see what they can do for you and protect your wealth and your future today. Now, back to regularly scheduled programming. I don't know which way she goes. Maybe she figures it out later on in the full video, because I love what Jubilee does. I love this channel because it shows people usually being rational and pleasant towards each other, except one fundamental flaw seems to happen over and over and over and over. It's the people on the right tend to have more respect for people than the people on the left. The left consider themselves so enlightened, so wonderful, so intelligent, that they will deride anyone that doesn't meet their standards. The right doesn't really have this problem, although it's popping up. It's very sad to see. And I need to briefly explain something about myself. I actually agree with Jacob's fundamental premise. All right, that he was the sort of little white liberal, but he understands something fundamental about this country. We did not do our black GIs any favors in either World War I, World War II, and arguably Vietnam. Same with the Korean War. The GI Bill was a fundamental bill that helped reconstruct the American middle class, and it was available to anyone who was white. We need to accept that and say, yes, what we did was wrong. And then we need to celebrate the fact that we started righting these wrongs. We have changed our zoning laws because we've seen the damage that they have done. We have changed our laws at the federal level because we've seen the damage of poll taxes. We've seen the damage of Jim Crow. It is okay to admit that America is flawed, but we need to understand that we fix our flaws. That is what makes the West so great. We look inward and see, what can we do better? I mean, it would be like the Romans against the Carthaginians. The Romans were land-based. What did they do? They studied one of the Carthaginian ships, put a giant plank on it, and then made it into a land battle. They learned from their mistakes. There aren't too many cultures that actively do that because they're so traumatized by their mistakes over and over and over again that they cocoon themselves. That's what happens on a meta level. The West doesn't really have this problem because we look inwards and say, what can we do better? That's why the West is so dominant. That's why Christianity and Judaism are inherent religions that matter so much to our systems. So, when it comes to black issues and reparations, I'm clearly not black. I can't even identify as black, which tells you how ridiculous some of this woke ideology really is. But I can say this: our history is flawed, but we keep getting better. That is the point and purpose. I grew up on a street in a mostly white neighborhood, but there were a bunch of black families. And ultimately, these people weren't all conservative, they weren't all liberal, but these were people who seemingly have gotten over their traumas and felt safe in the neighborhood. I am glad to have known these people and lived beside them. Ultimately, a black conservative is merely someone who has gotten over their generational trauma. And I can further say that it is okay to criticize these United States. But when you understand that you need to look at history as something to overcome and do better, you will become a better citizen. The left has not figured this part out. They look at this as black and white evil for some reason, and I'm talking about in terms of truth versus false, and then just for some reason declare us all evil because of something that happened years before we were even born. That is fundamentally illogical, and it's wrong. And that's what's going on here. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.